Welcome to the Love on the Go podcast, brought to you by Carolina's Matchmaker. I'm Laurie Burzak, and for over 17 years, I've been helping singles find the relationship of their dreams all over the Carolinas. Along the journey, I've met so many amazing professionals and experts from various fields, and I'm excited to introduce them to you. What's my goal? I want to help you look at love and relationships in a new way and to grow in your understanding of how love works. Let's learn together how people have overcome personal obstacles and have found love, first and foremost with themselves. The ultimate goal is realizing that you are worthy and deserving of love. Let's get started. All right, we've got Sandra Weber with us today, who is a mind and body mentor who empowers her clients to rebuild a mind and body connection through massage and body work. And what I'm intrigued to talk to you about today, Sandra, is the idea of reducing or preventing chronic pain through mind-body awareness. So Sandra grew up in a hyper fundamental religious church, and she's going to talk about how that affects healthy relationships and the purity culture movement and lots of other things. So get ready for a ride. Welcome to Love on the Go.
Thank you so much. I appreciate the opportunity to be here and talk to you.
Yeah, for sure. So Sandra, you own and operate Integrative Bodywork in Charlotte, North Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
So for people that are living outside of Charlotte, you can come here for something special.
Absolutely.
And you're also doing trainings for corporate and private events, providing actionable steps to rebuild the mind-body connection.
Absolutely.
You know, it's like we've all heard these words before, and sometimes they just kind of go over your head. Like, tell us exactly what you offer to your clients. What do you offer in your practice?
So the easiest way to describe it right off the bat is traditional massage with really heavy bent towards anatomy. So really learning how the body works. And you go in for a massage, and people can get a massage in many places, and it's great. But I have a lot of certifications and advanced training in how functional anatomy works, so that when you have issues like sciatica, like chronic neck pain, like headaches, a lot of my clients have a lot of autoimmune issues. They have fibromyalgia, they have lymphatic issues. Mm-hmm. So I do a lot more in my sessions than the traditional typical massage. I do craniosacral therapy. So craniosacral therapy is another. I've
done that.
Yep. So it's another hands-on modality. A lot of people confuse it with Reiki, which it's not that. That's two separate things. Mm-mm. But it's hands-on work in the clinic, in the practice that I do. So hands-on, anatomically focused massage and body work. And then because of my long career in the field and years of study, because I learned very quickly that people would come to me physically hurting, but there is a mental, emotional, spiritual, trauma, family connection to it. So I had to start learning what that connection was to be able to help people understand we can work the body backwards a little bit to help with those things. And I'm a big referral. I refer my clients out all the time. As soon as I start hearing some buzzwords, or as soon as I feel and see different things in their body, and they say a couple of things about their past, I know there's a connection there. And if they're willing to be referred somewhere that works well with what they're talking about, I immediately get another professional on board, because everything is connected, and mental, emotional, those things play out physically every time. They can't be, there's no disconnect there.
Exactly. I think that what some people don't always connect is that whatever is going on in our mind is going to be impacting our body.
100%.
So for me personally, I have rheumatoid arthritis. I went and I know that it was activated when there was a death in our family that was tragic for me to watch somebody die. It was horrible, and my RA flared. It was just terrible. And I could not even get a massage. My body was in so much pain. So I went in for this craniosacral.
Craniosacral, yes.
Yeah. And she just worked on my head, and it helped my entire body. So there's so much to be said for this body of work that Sandra is doing. Yes. And if you're listening from another part of the country, there are practitioners everywhere. They're all trained under like a certain brand, is my right? Isn't that?
There's several different certification boards and things, but yes, there's certifications.
a great deep training that people get for this, and it's very elevated and it's very relaxing. So it can be just as relaxing as somebody massaging your entire body. So I just want to kind of say that. What are you learning when you're on that table with people? I bet you're hearing some stories.
This is a horrible joke, but this is a joke that I always say is that body workers are like bartenders without the alcohol, because the power of touch is just that. It is very powerful. And when
Mhm.
you start to help someone unravel their physical pain, it just starts coming out.
Yeah.
And sometimes they can't even help it. That, we are trained to not evoke information from our clients. That's not our job. We're not therapists, and we're
Right.
not supposed to, talk back or give advice. So we are really a sounding board. People talk and we just agree. And that's what I'm saying. I'm documenting it so I know how to
Yeah.
best help them.
Yes.
But one of the big ways that this happens is, for example, just going to trauma that someone may have experienced in their past.
Yes.
When I go to work on their legs and I'm trying to do, like, if I'm trying to rotate their leg in and out, and it's just locked in place. And it's not because their femur head can't move in the joint. It's because their pelvic floor muscles are so tense, it
Mhm.
won't allow mobility of the joint. So then, and I know as a body worker in palpation what someone that has femoral acetabular impingement syndrome feels like, which is where the femur head is locked up in the joint,
Yeah.
versus what it feels like when someone's clenching. I can feel
Mhm.
that right away. So when
Mhm.
and they don't, sometimes I'll go through sessions and people will say nothing the first couple of times, but I
Right.
try to do range of motion. It's not happening. I don't force it. A couple of times, a couple sessions in, when they start to trust me more, have more rapport, feel more comfortable and safe in my room, when I
Mhm.
try to do those techniques, sometimes they just start saying, or they'll just write out, share, I had sexual trauma as a child, or they'll say
Okay.
something like that. So the body does tell a story. It comes out
Mhm.
in many different ways. And our job as body workers and practitioners is to allow the client to tell the story that they want to tell, and
Yeah.
then listen to the body as it speaks, because it does.
So interesting. Does the massage that you've done, has it ever triggered a memory for
All the
someone?
time,
Can you
especially
give
cranial
us an
work.
example?
A lot of it goes back to childhood. A lot of it will, people will just say, I don't know, I just had this thought out of nowhere about my dad walking me through a field when I was younger.
Mm.
And we weren't even talking. So that can happen. I was working on a lady one time, I was working on her forearm. And, my treatment room and the way things flow is just like a traditional massage. But I just saw tears start trickling down her face.
Yeah.
Again, we were trained how to handle this. Emotional releases are perfectly normal and acceptable and welcome. And I asked her, are you comfortable to continue? Do you need to take a break? Do you need a sip of water? She's like, no, 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 I'm fine. My mom died last year. And I just started thinking of her while you're doing the work.
Yeah.
So all the time, almost every day.
Yeah. And I
Yep.
know for some, some folks that are single and, they just haven't been touched in a long time. Um,
Yep.
that must be, I think it's important to be touched. So massage is a really wonderful way to enter that space in a safe way, in a healthy way where you're not locked into a relationship or trying to form a relationship or trying to, you know, be something you're not, whatever it is. It's a brilliant way to connect to your body.
Non
Um,
non-sexual caring touch
yeah.
is so healing.
Mm.
I tell people, some people say, well, massage doesn't do a lot. A massage does so much. I can give you a list biologically what it does. But cognitively, if someone has had trauma in their past, and trauma has many different levels and rankings, but for them to be able to want to receive and not have the opportunity, or have a barrier with their partner or anything like that, or having trouble in any capacity, if they're coming to me, they know that's none of that's on the table. I've had
Mhm.
clients come to me and say, I don't want any work below my waist. Cool. We're going to do back, shoulders, arms. I can spend an hour on someone's head, face, and neck. But they
100%.
start, what I say is, you're practicing receiving, get
Mm.
body work. And that's very hard for some people. But what I see happen every time is a couple sessions in, again, I gain their trust. They feel comfortable in the room. This is why I do a free 15-minute consultation. People can come in my office, they meet me, they see the room, they smell the smells, they hear the noises, their body becomes adapted to where they were going to be. And then as we start to have that experience of care and receiving, they're like, next time you can do my feet. So I'll do the upper body and the feet. And then the time after that, like, I guess you can go ahead and do my legs. So they're learning to receive caring touch. So yes, it is absolutely healing, and more couples should work on each other. I teach my couples, especially Valentine's Day is coming up, buy a massage gun. It does not have to be the expensive one. Get the $35 one off Amazon and use your massage gun on each other, because even couples doing that for each other, there's so much healing there. Being willing to give non-sexual healing touch and being able to receive that caring touch or a massage gun or anything like that. It's so good for the body of the receiver, the mind of the receiver, and the mind and the body of the giver. So it's good for both.
I know that you had some trauma yourself growing up, being involved with this hyper fundamental religious church system. Can you tell us a little bit about that? What was
So,
that?
I grew up in the Bible Belt. My husband didn't grow up in the Bible Belt, but he grew up also in a church and a Christian college of the same tilt. So if you can imagine, women were not allowed to wear pants because it's not modest.
Right.
It was the typical, women's bodies cause men to sin. So there's a lot of emphasis on morality and being appropriate with your dress, which neither of those things are bad. It's when you put them on the scale and slide it towards the red side too far, and you become hyper focused on these things. So basically, taking a religious dogma to the point of having preferences, which is what people coming on the other side of these things understand. A lot of the rules that we were forced to obey were preferences people set in place. So coming through that and then seeing, I don't think this is how it's supposed to work. And then relationships, the women, as in a lot of religions, not just Christianity, women were basically created to serve a man.
Yeah.
To be their, everything they say goes, you submit, you stay. You're basically a yes woman to everything they want. And that was kind of the culture that was created in those type of situations.
How did you come to realize that this didn't really sink in with you? Did you have like a light bulb moment?
I didn't have a light bulb moment. I just started looking around. Well, so for me specifically, and so a little bit more about my background of why I kind of saw these things. My family came from the Virginia, Kentucky, Tennessee tri-state area. They were coal miners. So that plays into their personality as well, and their education and how their worldview. And a lot of the, coal mining is hard. Coal mining families, they worked to survive. They were survival people. That's what they did. So I understand more about their personality types now being older. I didn't as a child. But, if you think of a stereotypical hard, mean, short-tempered, keep the kids quiet, don't bother dad, that was my upbringing. So being that I was a scared, timid child, people that meet me now are like, we don't know who you are because who you were as a kid was not this.
By the way, for those of you that aren't on YouTube watching, Sandra has like shaved head on the side, really cool, like blonde bob on the other side, like kind of edgy.
It's a pixie cut. Well, that's an example. Like when I cut my hair, I had family members. Well, I had hair down to my elbows until I was a freshman in college because a woman's hair is her beauty.
Oh boy.
And I had family members contact me and say, you just cut off your most beautiful feature. And men are not attracted to short hair. I mean, those kinds of standards are what I'm talking about. But going back to the way I was raised, having the men in my life, and both my mom and dad had 7 or 8 kids in each family, so lots of uncles, they're all hard and mean. And when I looking just as a child, I remember around 12 or 13, I started looking around, and we moved a couple different places at this point. So I got to see some examples in different churches. And I'm like, what I experienced in my home, because we were afraid, because it was mean. It was always kind of yelling. It was demanding you obey or else. Um,
Mhm.
and I would look around at other families and I would see dads not act that way. And I would be at sleepovers and their dads were really kind and nice. And I have a great relationship with my dad now. Like I said, things change over time. But
Mhm.
growing up and that aha moment kind of was a slow learn. And I
Mm.
started reading the Bible myself, which is what a lot of people in religious cultures should do, is read your own scriptures. A lot of times it's in black and white. People twist and turn things, of course, but I started to understand, I don't think this is how God wants a family structure to look like. I don't think if he wants you to commit to someone for the rest of your life, that it should be, you should want to come home every day. You should want to be with your partner. It should be amazing. If I'm going to commit myself to this one person, it should be
Mm.
awesome. So I
Mm.
started having that thought process as a teenager, and I just made a decision when I get out on my own, I'm
Mhm.
not going to marry someone that believes these things. I'm going
Mm.
to make my own decision and I'm going to have an awesome family and I'm going to have an awesome marriage and a fun marriage. So I started having those thoughts and prayers and intentions as a teenager.
Okay. Then you did continue on to religious college.
I did. One of the things I like to tell people that come through this situation is you don't have to not love God anymore, and you can still go to church and have different beliefs and preferences, like I said earlier. So,
Yeah.
yes, my husband and I actually met in a Bible college, is what they're called,
Okay.
seminary for those who don't know what those lingo means. But yes, we met in a Christian college. I went for secondary education.
Okay.
I have my actual degrees in secondary education. I learned really quick that I don't like other people's kids. I do like teaching though. I'm always teaching. I was a volleyball coach for a while, so it
Okay.
still did serve me well. And I met my husband and many, many good friends that I still have to this day. But yes, we met in college and people, because I've been married 25 years and people always ask how in the world that worked. I never thought I would get married at 21. Never.
Okay.
The way I thought it would probably work for me, because I had a very clear understanding of what I was looking for in a partner. And the first thing that I was looking out for was a temper. And if I
Mm.
saw someone have a temper with a waitress or with authority in any way, or was just rude to people, I didn't care what you brought to the table. I was immediately out. So
Mhm.
I was watching for those red flags to not, I learned from my situation I was in, my surroundings, to not repeat that in my own relationship.
Yeah.
So, things happened, friend groups were there, and I met my husband. And, it was like the perfect storm because again, I was looking for the temper, the attitude, those things, not there with my husband at all, which is one of the reasons I married him.
Yeah.
We were both athletes. I always try to get people, I have two 20-year-old kids, one's 23, one's 20.
Mhm.
And I'm always teaching them, to what to look for, what to look out for in partners and compatibility, things that you like. You don't have to like everything together, but we were both athletes. And I remember there was a couple, we were in the gym one night. My husband played basketball, I played volleyball. And he came over and he was like, dude, his girlfriend's mad at him for playing ball.
Mm.
And she's mad that he's not like staying, talking to her all night. And I'm like, well, you don't have to worry about that because I'm going to be playing volleyball all night and you can play basketball as long as you want.
Yeah.
So those common things started to happen. I met his family.
Mhm.
I saw how his father treated his mother. I knew I
Mhm.
was safe there.
Nice.
And watching him, even in the school we were in, there was a big, like, there's a lot of pressure on the women. There's a lot of pressure on the men to become pastors. Like that
Mm.
was God's ultimate calling. You were chosen of God to be a pastor. And I
Mhm.
knew all these yahoos I was going to college with. And I'm like, you are not called of God to be a pastor. I can tell you that right now. But they would still raise their hand during a sermon because they were so pressured to do it and pressured to commit and
Right.
pressured to show what kind of servant you are.
Yeah.
My husband never did that. He was like, I am not called to be a pastor. I'm not standing up
Mm.
and saying I'm going to do something I'm not going to do. So
Mhm.
those little things I started seeing, okay, he loves God like I do. He wants to be involved in church like I do, but he's not buying into all of this other stuff. I like that. And
Yeah.
after dating for a while, I just saw all of those things fall into place and let me know that we were on the same course. We had a lot in agreement together. And I tell people too, like, we agreed to the same rules of the game,
Yeah.
basically. So that's kind of, and we had all these major discussions before we got married because I was bound to determine, again, you can't say what's going to happen in the future, what one person may or may not do. But when it came to arguing, I had a rule: I will never yell at you. You never raise your voice at me. That's
Yeah.
off the table. We do not yell at each other. We can sit and disagree about things all day long, but I will not put up with someone yelling at me. I had too much of that. We talked about raising children. We talked about what our religious beliefs were. We nailed all those things down. And again, because of everything that I saw, I'm like, if we agree on these big things, everything else is negotiable. And that's kind of how we entered our relationship and ended up getting married at 21.
Love it. It's funny. I came up in a family of yellers. Mom would yell across the house to have us come down, and it was just very loud all the time. There were four kids and two parents, and it was just a busy household. My husband had one sister, two parents, and they would walk into the other room to say whatever it is they needed to say. So when Kevin and I first got married and I would yell, he'd be like, no,
Yeah.
we don't do that. I'm like, what do you mean? Even like yelling, it's dinner,
Yeah.
he's like, walk upstairs and tell the kids it's dinner. I'm like, all right. So there was not a lot of yelling in my household. And this home, which is nice. We
Mhm.
changed that trajectory. I didn't like it. It was very jarring growing up, but that's what I was used to.
Sure, sure.
Um, so it's curious. I hear what you're saying, and I love the intentionality that you had in dating and being like hyper aware of red flags that might crop up and things that did and did not work for you.
Well,
And
and it's funny because, I had that awareness, but I was wrong on several things too that I learned before I got into that relationship. Because like you said, hyper aware, I for sure was,
yeah,
to my detriment sometimes. And one young man I was dating before my husband called me out on it, and I needed to be called out on it. We were
right.
dating and he was great, never did anything wrong. And he made a comment one day and I said something sharp that was unnecessary about, oh, you're just like either my dad. I don't know what it was. I said some comment saying he was this, this, and this. He was like, are you going to hold everything your dad did or the men in your life did against every man you date from now on? I was
Hmm.
like, oh,
Yeah,
probably not a good idea. I need to check myself. So
right.
that's another tool that I learned, and I've taught my kids this too, is you believe someone for what they say they are, who they are, what they believe, until they give you different information. It could be by their actions, by their words,
Yeah.
whatever. But that's something I had to learn. And I had to accept my husband for who he said he was going to be. And we had a couple of experiences while we were dating that came up into, where I had to prove that. So, yeah,
Yeah, that's good. What's the purity culture movement?
the purity culture is sitting around at youth group, passing around a crushed up rose to the girls and saying, if you have sex before marriage, you're just like this crushed up rose. You'll never be the same again.
Wow. Okay.
That's the purity culture. And then all of the things around it that look like it is your skirts have to be below your knees. You can't wear a shirt unbuttoned more than 2 fingers below your collarbone. Um, no dating without a chaperone.
Mm.
Some families take it really far, like no holding hands before marriage, no kissing before marriage. And anytime there was a default in any of those things, if someone found out that someone had slept with their partner, God forbid someone get pregnant before marriage, it was always the girl's fault. She was acting immodest. Men can't control themselves. You're tempting them, and they have, biological needs, and you shouldn't have behaved this way. They wouldn't have done this. That's
Mm.
the purity culture.
Okay. Interesting. Um, do you think that the church that you grew up in, did it feel more like a cult than a church? Is it a combination?
No,
No.
nope. No, I didn't feel like there weren't rituals like that, like you see on, Netflix documentaries and things like that. And I never saw anything bad happen. It
Okay.
was that underlying theme that traveled across almost every family. Like I
Yeah.
said, my husband's church, he grew up in too. And the college that we went to, all the kids that came there, they were kind of all in the same situation.
Yeah.
It was like, and the phrase that I coined, the hyper fundamental Baptist culture, that's what that is, because there's plenty of Baptist churches. None of them believe any of that. Like
Yeah.
you go and you never heard of that at all. It's just these select few where they put these preferences as your evidence of your righteousness and your standing and walk with God.
What kind of a church do you belong to now?
I belong to a church in Weddington, and it's what we want, which is a congregation of people that believe in a creator, that want to, the purpose for a church, because we can all read the Bible, we can all have a personal relationship with God. So when I go to a church, I could go in with no music, no fanfare, sit down, listen to someone. The reason we all read any book or listen to any podcast, we want to learn something, or we need to be reminded of something, because none of us do what we're supposed to do all the time. But as groups go, when you have any type of group, you want to make it a meal, you want people to want to come there. So you have the music, you have, the hymns and things like that. So all that's fine. But we actually go to church with someone that I went to college with.
Okay.
So I know them personally. I know his wife personally. I know what they believe. One of the great things that our pastor always says is, as your pastor, I'm not here to tell you how to run your house.
Right.
And that's what I love.
Yeah.
So finding people that believe commonly as you do, that are trying to be better people every day, and we have a biblical worldview. Simple as that.
Interesting. A lot of the matches that I make are based on religion, or really based on the ethical and moral system that people use to live their lives, and where they want to go in their life. So I dig in a lot with my matchmaking when men hire me for matchmaking about what they're looking for in terms of spirituality, faith. If they're agnostic, I'm not going to match them with somebody who is a very religious person. It's just doesn't make sense. So people definitely need to be on the same groove there, especially if they're looking to have children and everything else. Those are all the conversations that you need to have before you get married. Don't be afraid to have those conversations, even early days of dating, first 5 dates.
100%.
Right?
Absolutely. I see this in my clients all the time. So again, like I said, people start sharing things during body work, and I hear religion is one of a big one, because people think, if there's attraction there, we can make anything work. We like each other. We're both good people. We're both good moral people.
Yep.
And then you have children, and one partner wants to take them to get baptized, infant baptism. The other person was like, we didn't do that growing up. You don't get baptized until you're saved. Now you have, what do you do there? Or you have other religious cultures that are way more regimented, and maybe none of those discussions happen until the child becomes a toddler and starts talking and starts repeating things they hear at school. And then one parent's like, oh, we need to tighten the reins here. We need to get involved in like a good moral community. We should start going to church now. Well, do you go to the synagogue, or do you go to the Baptist?
There you go.
So it's a big thing, along with many things like that, fitness and health. Like I said earlier, my husband and I agreed on the rules of the game we were going to play together.
Yeah.
And the rules of our game is, yes, life is going to happen. I'm going to get pregnant and have kids. Who knows how that's going to go? But the rules we agree on is we have put our health physically, mentally, emotionally as a standard that we expect each other to hold up to. And I have seen that rip marriages apart often. Either like if the two of us have this agreement that health and fitness and those things are a priority, and one of us just decides not to anymore and, becomes obese. I've seen this happen in clients. That's two different games we're playing. Or I have clients as couples come to me and they're both very unhealthy. One of them decides to start going on a healing journey and a health journey, hires a nutritionist, starts eating healthy, doesn't want to drink anymore. That's a big one. One decides they don't want to drink anymore, and the other one, this is what we do. We drink every night. We go out. We have alcohol in the house. So yeah, those things that were agreed upon or not agreed upon, that's why there's many reasons marriages fail. But what I see in my clients and what they've shared with me, there's some big ones: money, health, fitness, mindset, and then religion are their big ones. They're big ones that can knock people for a loop.
Yeah. And so the main thing, and we'll wrap up with this, is that you want to make sure that you do whatever you need to do to clear your mind of anything that is triggering, anything that's going to create inflammation in your body, anything that is going to be very disturbing. And you can do that through meditation. Bodywork is a fantastic way to do that, to release the anxiety, because you will make yourself sick if these disturbing thoughts are constantly circulating in your mind, because your mind can't figure it out. Your spirit can, but your mind cannot. And people think that their minds are who they are, and that's actually not the case. And it's confusing until you like really capture the essence of all of that. So bodywork is a really easy way to do that, in my opinion. It's a small investment into your health and relaxation and enjoyment of life. So this has really been wonderful. Thank you so much, Sandra. It was delightful talking to you today.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, if people want to find you, where are you on socials? And
Instagram at the Sandra Weber and integrativebodywork.com.
Perfect.
Yep.
That's great. Lovely to see you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for listening to Love on the Go. I hope you join us on our next episode. You can make sure to know when it is by following us wherever you listen to podcasts. Also, if you enjoyed it, it'd be great if you left us a review. I'd appreciate it. In the meantime, to learn more about me and how my team can help you, visit carolinasmatchmaker.com. Until next time.